All right. Well, first of all, thank you for giving me some of your time and and for the interview. Now, for the record, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Levan Hubbard, and I am worship pastor at Village Bible Church in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas.
All right. And how long have you been there?
Almost 14 years.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to show you something right quick. Does that look familiar?
Very much so. Yeah.
All right. Now, where are you on this cover?
I'm on the back row, first guy on the left. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm chubby cheeks.
All right. Do you remember what year this album was?
I'm going to say about 78, 79.
78, 79. Okay. And who are the people with you on the album? Say, starting with the three gentlemen in the back. You say you're the first one on the left.
Yes. The guy in the middle is Gary Rice.
Gary Rice.
The guy to his right is, looking at it, is Frank Matchett.
Frank Matchett.
Yep.
Okay, and the middle three.
Okay. The one on the left is Bonnie Matchett.
Okay. Relation to?
Yes, husband and wife.
Okay. And the gentleman in the middle?
His name is Wayne Langle. And then that one is Rhonda Riker.
Rhonda Riker on the right, and the two young ladies up front.
Okay, the one is Joyce Matchett. And then the last one is DeVale Riker.
Okay, so there are more spouses involved?
There was another girl. I'm actually not remember why she's not on there. Another girl, her name was Janice Hudson. She's actually Frank's sister, and so is Joyce.
Okay.
And her husband played the guitar for us, and I'm not sure why their picture's not on there. I never realized that.
Now, how many albums did the Gospel Messangers release?
We did 3. The first one was about in 73. And then we did one 2 or 3 years later. And then we did this one last.
Okay. Let's see. Where was this produced?
This was at Raymar Studios in Russelville. It was a guy's basement that he had a home studio set up, home recording studio. So
as soon as you said Raymar, that's the record label, Raymar Sound Productions.
Yeah. There's a guy by the name of Ray Baker who had a trucking company there, and he was into promoting gospel music and gospel singings and that kind of thing. And so he kind of got into doing some of the recordings. He didn't do it himself, but he had other people who had some skills in that area to do that. So
okay. How long were the Messengers together?
I'm going to say they probably started in 72. They started off as the Sweet Home Singers. That was the church that they went to, was Sweet Home Church. And there was my brother-in-law, and my brother-in-law is Frank Matchett, so we're connected. And then his wife is my sister, so we were all connected family-wise. And there was another couple that started with them who went to the church, and then another guy, and so it was the 4 of them. And then it wasn't too long until the couple quit, and that's when I came along playing the bass guitar. And then I eventually started singing with them when the other guy left. So there was just some transitions there that kind of made it all come to pass.
All right. So you were originally the bassist. I'm looking at the back of the album cover.
Yeah.
And I see your name on piano, bass, and rhythm guitar. So you're just a multi-instrumentalist to begin with.
Well, somewhat. I don't claim too much. But I was majoring in voice at Arkansas Tech at the time to be a singer. But I did play bass for a long time, and I could play and I just happened to be able to play that one song on the piano, and I'm the one who made it work. So I, kind of came together. I can master some, but not. I wouldn't say I was too much of a versatile player anyway.
Gotcha.
So,
You were what they call serviceable.
I think so. Yeah, what do they call it? Utility player, I think is what they call it. Yeah. So.
And how long were you with the Messengers?
Probably, I remember having a bass amp at school that I used for one of our band concerts, and that was in '73. And then I got married in '80, and for probably about a year after that, I did that. So about '81. So, 73 to '81-ish.
Okay. And this particular album, you said is the third album.
Right.
Do you remember how many there were altogether?
Yeah, there were 3.
Oh, just the 3. So
Yeah,
this
was the last one. Yeah.
all
And
right.
interestingly enough, the 2 Riker girls, we kind of had a different combination. They were my pastor's daughters, and they started singing with us. And there was a section where the 2 of them and me would do a trio. And so we had a combination of different voices that we did. Sometimes the guys would all sing, and Gary, the bass player, would sing the tenor part. So we'd have a quartet. But most of the time we were a mixed quartet with 2 guys and 2 girls.
Also, you had let's see, about how many different combinations could you have?
That would be 3. Yeah.
Oh, so those were the 3 that you normally rotated with.
Yeah, there was, and we would, like the guys would just maybe do 1 song, maybe 2, and then the trio would do maybe 2 or 3 songs, and the rest of the time it was just the regular quartet. So,
Now, did you travel much? How far did you go?
we mostly stayed in central Arkansas. Occasionally we'd get into Oklahoma or something where we knew somebody, but mostly just in Arkansas and in the central Arkansas area. And we would go, it seemed like at the time, just about every weekend once. I remember one weekend we did 3 gigs, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon. That we thought we were professional, But, we stayed pretty busy. I would say regularly a couple of times a month, except in the coldest of winter, it kind of slowed down. But we practiced every week and put quite a bit of time in preparing.
Okay, so walk me through. You had 3 albums. What normally went into producing an album?
Well, we would decide what songs we wanted, and then we would learn the songs. And the first one, when we went in there, I think it was only maybe he had a couple of tracks. And so we had to get everything just right and recorded all the instrumentation and all the voices all had to be right, or we had to do the whole thing over with everybody. I mean, that was seems archaic now, the way things are all set up, digitally. But that was part of the preparation, is just deciding what songs and then learning them so that when we went the first one, we did it in a good long day. We probably got there about 9 in the morning and we finished about 5. And we called instruments in that didn't, some of these guys are just so good, they pick it up. And it's, our music was pretty simple as far as the chord structure, so they could follow well. And we had a steel player and a rhythm guitar player and a drummer, and I played the bass on the first one. And I think a lead guitar. He was one of the guys that was the husband of one of the girls. And it was just pretty interesting because he would just say, okay, you take the first verse and you play on that. And, then on the second verse, Steele, I want you to take that. Or he'd say, I want you to do the intro, and they'd come up with something right there on the fly. It's pretty interesting Well, it was, and I listened to it not too long ago. My niece had it, and it was interesting. It really turned out better than I remembered, because I was thinking how bad it might have been. It's been so long, but yeah, that. And then the second one was kind of the same way. We did it at the same place, and then the third one we went to Raymar, and he had a few more tricks. I think he had more tracks, and we did it, on 2 or 3 different settings where we did a couple of songs each time we went, so that it wasn't so stressed. But we did it in the evening, and it made it a little bit easier to, we didn't just totally tired out by the time the day was over, so.
Well, yeah, all of that in one day, yeah, that's unheard. And if I'm not mistaken, you said you recorded everything live,
Yes.
and it had to be right all in one take.
And sometimes you just goof up one place, and you have to go back and do the whole song again and do it over. So I just went to Nashville. I was singing a trio now, and I went to Nashville and did a recording, and then it was so much different. I mean, they can do so much, as when you're in that field, but I mean, just they can get you close, and they're like, we can finish it from here, pitch issues or whatever. It just, they can even move you around for the rhythm, if you're a little bit off, just move you a little bit, but
fix it in post.
Yep, for sure.
So not all of your albums were on Raymar.
No, the first 2 we did was a guy named John Miller, and it was called John's Recording Studio, and it was in Russelville as well. And he had a neat little setting. It was in his home, but he made the big living room his recording studio. So they kind of lived in the outskirts of the living room, and had different areas, where they lived. But the first 2 was at John's Recording Studio.
I've seen that label. I've been collecting a number of these albums, and I always wondered who was John. It's just John's.
Yeah, I think his last name is Miller. I wouldn't bet my life on that, but I think so.
So 2 albums on John's and 1 on Raymar.
Right.
Right. And as far as collecting the songs, did you guys write any material on your albums?
There was about 3 or 4 songs through all of them that we did that were original. But the rest of them, we just found songs we liked that other people did and recorded them. And yeah.
So you kept an open ear.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it was interesting because when we would go to learn a new song, it was almost like we would try it, and if it worked, we'd use it, and if it didn't, we didn't spend a lot of time on it. So, so we kind of had a niche that fell in there, and the people involved weren't too hip on just really woodshedding it, where you get it all your time in and you work your part, and you do all that. And so it's interesting how that worked out. We had some good songs and some that were a little challenging, but it's because it just kind of fell together. And we'd try it 2 or 3 different rehearsals, like, okay, let's try this one again, see if it'll fly tonight, see if, maybe they go home and work on it or listen to it and see how everybody else did it. And there was only a couple or 3 keys that we did songs in because, it just seemed to fit us. If we changed much, then we had to restructure the whole key and who led and who did, so, and then our instrumentalists, they like to play in certain keys. And so, we just kind of limited ourselves in those ways, but yeah.
So how did the business end of it fit in? If you're getting songs from other people, not many people are hip to the business end of the recording industry, but with this being fairly local, how much attention was paid to, say, royalties and who's doing what song?
Well, the first album, I know we probably didn't even give that any attention. We just did it, and then as we moved forward, I became aware that there was a need to pursue that. And I remember one company writing me back and giving me information about how to pay the royalties and, you know, what process to go through, that kind of thing. But most of them, we only made like 500 copies. And I, you know, at the time it was like maybe 5 cents or something. I don't even know. Wasn't much per copy. And most of the publishing companies didn't even hardly want to mess with it, you know. So we tried to, you know, as time went on, we tried to pursue that so that we, you know, because I felt like it was something that was ethically right. But then, you know, we weren't drawing so much from them that they would, you know, it would break the bank for them, or that they were really interested in doing. So that's kind of how it ended up, is we just didn't do that.
Gotcha. Now, with relations aside, how closely do the members of the group keep in contact these days? Or what has happened since the times you were recording these albums?
Well, like of course, my sister and brother-in-law, I kept in touch with them afterwards. Everybody kind of moved away. At this point, my sister and brother-in-law, Frank and Bonnie, and Wayne Langle have all three passed away. And then my Gary Rice, he moved to Columbus, Ohio to work in a Christian school there. The Riker girls, they went to, I think one of them lives in Arizona and the other one, it lives in, I'm not even sure. Now Frank's sister and the one that's not shown there, two sisters, you know, being in the family, that being my brother-in-law's sisters, we've kind of come in contact with each other. And they continued after me, and there was another sister that sang with them. So they had three girls and my brother-in-law, and they would have a reunion every year or two and kind of do like a benefit singing or something like that, you know, just to get together. But I lived out of state for a long time while they were doing that. So I still would say that I see, you know, Joyce, one of the sisters, occasionally at an event or that kind of thing, but I don't really, you know, intentionally contact her. And the others, a couple of the others are on Facebook, and we contact and, you know, have a little bit of contact there, but nothing formal or anything like that.
All right. Now, I recently spoke to, and see if you remember the name, Michael Brashear.
Yeah, sure did.
I spoke with him recently, and he was telling me that that he knew you.
Yeah.
In fact, you guys are from the same part of the state, are you not?
Right, we are. Yeah, their family lived in Russelville, actually, and I'm about 30 miles from there where my parents live. Yeah, the Brashears they went professional. They were on the road for several years and went as a family, and that's how they made their living. They kind of broke into a few settings. The mom was a songwriter, and she wrote some songs for, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Happy Goodman family. And a couple of people, you know, who are well known, and that kind of gave them some notoriety as far as recognition. But when their kids all kind of got older, they kind of faded out of the scene as far as doing that. And then they hired a guy to sing with them, the mom and the dad. And eventually it was just the mom and the dad, and, you know, they used soundtracks, and just kind of faded out because it was just so hard to keep going. But yeah.
Now, how many other groups were you familiar with? From what I'm beginning to understand, it was a pretty a tightly knit community.
Yeah, I saw another one on your post there that was the Oak Grove Singers, and I knew them pretty well. Something came up. I was trying to get rid of it. I know them pretty well, and it was interesting how at the time us and the Oak Grove Singers would do a lot of things together. churches would have like a watch night service on New Year's Eve, and they would have us both come. And of course, you got a lot of time to kill. And you'd start at 8, you'd sing till 9:30, you'd eat, and then you'd come back and sing and preach and pray the new year in. That was just a traditional kind of thing. So it was some of those events that we sang together. And other times there would be churches who'd have both of us come and sing for an event on a typically Saturday night or something like that.
I mean, mentioning them, that's the album cover.
Yeah, that's a real old one, but that is them. The guy standing, let's see, I'm getting my right and left mixed up. It's not only the guy on the left, but the one next to him just recently passed away.
This one here?
Yes. And then the guy next to him is his dad, and he passed away quite a while ago. And then the lady sitting in the piano on the right, she just recently passed away. The one in the middle, she's married to the guy behind her who just died. And the guy on the left, he's passed away. His name is Glenn Akins. But the lady in the glasses, I'm not familiar with her, or the guy playing the guitar, bass guitar.
Okay. So of the ones you know, the one in the middle is the only one who's still with us?
That one and maybe the bass player. Because I'm not familiar with him. When I knew him, there was another guy playing bass for him.
Okay. Now, of all the tracks that that you and the Messengers put out, is there any particular one track that really stood out to you? Which one may have been a favorite for you?
Well, you mean on that album or on any of them?
On this album or either of the three?
Let me see. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. The first album was called It May Be Old Fashioned. And we all went up to Petit Jean State Park, and there's an old cabin up there, and we had our picture taken in front of that. And the song was like, it may be old fashioned, but it's not out of style, talking about serving the Lord. And then there was one that we sang that's called I'm Going Up to Be with Jesus. And it's like, I'm going up, 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 up. It kind of was a little echo there. And people really liked that one. I'm trying to think, when I heard my niece play some of those songs, there was some on there that I didn't even remember we recorded. I mean, that sounds really bad, but it's been so long, that I didn't remember that we even recorded that. I don't have one of those in front of me, but if you wanted to maybe give me some of those names, I could tell you what might be of, significance.
All right. On side one, there's I'm Gonna Move Up to the Mountaintop, which is the title track for the album.
Yeah.
That's What I'm Living For. The Sun's Coming Up. Promises. I'll Keep Holding On, and Calm the Storm. On side two, A Love All My Own. I Owe It All to Thee. It'll Be Joy. He Came Back, and Walking with Jesus.
Yeah. There's none of those that really stick out as being memorable. I was trying to, if I had been thinking, I could have thought about the one I played piano on, but it was different. It'll Be Joy was kind of fun. That's one that the trio did. And it kind of was, it'll be joy, 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 when I hear the trumpet sound. And it was kind of fun song to sing. There was one that my brother-in-law, I sang the part. I'm really a baritone, but I kind of sang the tenor part with the girls. And there was one song that he would always have, it's called Shout All Over Heaven. Wasn't one of my favorite songs. I didn't like the way it was laid out, but it's like, I'll stroll right down those streets of gold on Golden Avenue. And every time I would do that, my voice would break because it was right above my breaking point, you know. And sometimes I could squeal it out or falsetto it or something, you know. And so when I was when I would do that, I told him, I said, I don't like singing that song because my voice breaks and it's tough on me, you know. He's like, well, that's why I like to do it, because I like to hear you do that. I'm like, man, with friends like you know. But yeah, we had some issues. Just I had one perspective, he had another, as far as how the group ought to be managed and that kind of thing. But I was in school and I pretty much just went and sang and enjoyed being there, because I realized we're on two different tracks. As far, I always thought we could go forward and do more and maybe, you know, get a little farther. The rest of the group was pretty much just satisfied with, you know, singing on weekends and that kind of thing. In fact, I went to Arkansas Tech because I'd been tried out for some professional groups, and they told me my voice wasn't mature enough, and that, of course, I was only 18 when I did that. So that's, you know, voice don't mature till you're older, and that, you know, they wanted somebody who could reach a certain note, and they were looking for basically a baritone who could sing a tenor note. And that, you know, that's kind of how they do it nowadays. They get people who can sing higher, because you can go lower easy and you can go higher, and everything's just, you know, tessitura is just so high on it, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's my motivation. Was I was wanting to do something with it in the future, and they weren't, but, you know, but it was a lot of fun.
And this was after you left the Messengers?
No, that was before.
Before?
I mean, that was while I was part of it. Yeah.
Okay, and you said you were 18?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were around 18 at the time of this album?
Probably so, yeah. Maybe 17. I was a junior in high school when I started playing with them, and I don't remember how long it was before we made an album. Now that one was closer to, I was probably, I think I was in college then, because I graduated from college in December of '79. So that would have been maybe a year and a half before I got out of school. But I continued to sing while I was going to college, and also tried to pursue some other things, and just didn't work out. Yeah.
So you had tried for some more, as you say, professional groups. Had you done, outside of that, any more singing and recording?
Since then?
Yes.
Yes, my family sang. I have 3 kids, and we sang as a family, because I married a lady that played the piano and sang, and so it worked out really well. And so we made 3 CDs. I was pastoring a church at the time, and it was a mission church, and we basically made the CDs to raise some money for the church. Because, you know, if you're not very popular, by the time you sell them all to your kinfolks, you're kind of done. So they gave us the reason to be able to distribute them a little bit more. And then recently, in the last year and a half, we started a trio that's in our church. It's me and another guy who's on staff there, and then another person who used to sing with the Melody Boys out of Little Rock, and they were a professional group. And we've been practicing. We actually had a singing the other night in Pecola, Oklahoma, and it was nice to get out and be able to sing, and people were really receptive. And so we made a CD last year in Nashville, as I told you, and that's, you know, so I'm still trying. Lord just hadn't opened up any doors really, and I went into ministry and pastored for 20 years, and, you know, now I'm doing the worship ministry, and it just seemed like those doors to sing didn't open in the sense of being able to go and do that. But churches I've worked in, I've always directed the choir, and, you know, had people, you know, different combinations of people sing, and just kind of directed that even though I was a pastor. So, yeah.
And at the time of this album, was the group affiliated with any specific denomination?
Most of the people in our group was Free Will Baptist, except for Wayne Langle, the guy in the middle, and he was Nazarene. And my brother-in-law met him one day, and he had this low booming voice, and we didn't even know if he could sing. We knew he had the voice, and so we kind of adopted him to go with us and kind of taught him the parts as we went, and it worked out pretty good. We should have probably listened to the ability a little bit more, but we were able to teach him the parts, and it worked out pretty good. But everybody else was. Now, there was one of the girls married a guy who was Cumberland Presbyterian. And so after they got married, they went to that church. But we were mostly all in one denomination, and I guess that's kind of how everybody met each other, and some of them married each other, was that they were in the same church and, at least denomination. So.
Yeah. All right. Sounds like you had fun.
It was fun. I remember when I was in college, we would sing about every weekend, and I was commuting from Morrilton to Russelville, which is about 30 miles. And I also worked at the hospital as an EMT. And so I would work 2 or 3 shifts during the week, and sometimes work like Friday night, 3 to 11 at the hospital with the ambulance service. And then I would go in 7 to 3 and work, and then I would go somewhere and sing Saturday night, and then go back in Sunday morning sometimes if they had me scheduled. So I was so busy, and I stayed up late, and here it is, how many years later, 50 years later, 45, 40, and I still have trouble going to bed because I'm just used, during college, that's just what you do. You just stay up and you do what you got to do, and you're young and you got all kinds of energy, and man, for that now. Yeah.
So it sounded like you were very busy. Was everyone else in the group just as busy as you were?
Well, let's see. My brother-in-law, he was a parts man at the Chevrolet place. My sister, she was pretty much a stay-at-home mom, and they had 3 kids. One of the girls married a guy who was a dentist in Russelville. And so he had a very busy practice, but he was able to get away to play guitar for us. And another girl, I think she went to beauty school, and she did hair. So, they weren't as, they probably had more of a regular life at that point than I did, because I was still trying to get through with school and figure out what I was going to do, and, go through all that. So.
All right. Is there anything else I'm missing? What else can you tell me?
Well, as I've thought through this, I think you've asked all the questions that I could think of that might be something interesting. I'm just curious how you found these recordings, and what stirred your interest or whatever.
It's always been of interest of mine. Pretty much across all different kinds of genres, old records, old music going back to 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
And I came across this album. It was either in a flea market or a Goodwill. I've been hitting those around Jonesboro and up around Paragould. So either in Jonesboro or Paragould, at one of the flea markets or Goodwill, I came across several.
Yeah.
And my interest was piqued. I figured, let me see how many people are still out there who can tell me about some of this stuff, because this is homegrown stuff.
I noticed on your post that somebody said that was the 70s, they all died. Well, hey, I'm still here.
I thought I'd say, hey, come on, that's not that long ago.
Really?
Oh my goodness. Well, I want to thank you. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to share the music from this album and in this interview with KASU.
Sure.
We have a 100,000 watt NPR station on the Arkansas State campus. in a feature that we call, Homegrown Arkansas Gospel.
Okay.
So we like to post it. We like to share it at the radio station and learn from it.
That'd be great. Any way I can help you out, let me know. I'm glad to.
By all means, I'd like to keep in touch if I come across another one of your albums, or if I could pick your brain a little bit more about more either from this group or some other groups. I'd love to do this again.
Okay, sounds great.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, if you want to hear our music, it's a Premier Sound is the name of the group, and we're on Spotify and Apple Music and that kind of thing. Our album is called Premiering Premier Sound.
Premiering Premier Sound.
And if you're curious, you might want to hear what we're doing now.
I'm going to check that out.
Good deal.
Definitely. All right. Thank you again. I really do appreciate it.
Well, you're quite welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. I'll be seeing you.
All right. Thanks a lot.